Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden, and the guy who's looking pretty good today with a lot of extra wisdom is Tim, and this is Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. My brothers and sisters, we are going to dive into an analysis today of a sheriff who is attacking Gavin Newsom's new gun control law. He's also saying he's going to enforce it, but then he waffles a little bit. There's a lot going on. He says all the right things, but then he folds like a cheap suit. We've got to show you this, and you guys are going to love it. But, Tim,
yes,
we're about to get into this. But before we do, though, I mean, you've got something to show from the Republican primary last night, don't you?
I do. I can't believe we're going to do this one. Yes. So I didn't watch the debate last night. I very rarely watch the things. And so Jesse Waters posted a poll on Twitter this morning saying who won the debate last night. The results are comical. I mean, it is really funny. You just know this sticks the thumb in the eye to those in the Joe Biden camp. Let Mr. Producer throw up the screenshot.
Yeah. You know, it would all make sense. Tim, it makes sense because there's front runner vibes. You know, that's solid. You know, it makes sense, except for one little tiny detail, Tim. The guy wasn't even there.
Wasn't even there. Yeah. Oh, he was talking to some auto workers up in Michigan, I believe, when that was going on. Yeah, and it's just so funny. And then you have all the X is just so much fun when something big political takes place because the commentary, you know, you have the typical leftist talking heads out there. Joe Biden was the real winner of the debate last night.
Clearly.
You haven't seen a national poll, but and then this, it's just like, wow, man, it's fun. Well, it's a very serious election cycle we're going into with a lot on the line, but you can't.
You think?
Yeah, right. But you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is just gold.
No, you can't. But you know what? I think that was good. I think people of the Second Legacy really enjoy a good jovial intro here and there, you know, because that's just hilarious.
Yeah. But I should also point out that Palmetto State Armory sold out of the 45 Glocks. Yeah,
they didn't.
They did. They put them on sale right after that whole flap. And they were like $7.99 and they sold out immediately. Yeah. So anyway,
you mean, oh God, you mean when the media did that thing that they always do where they're like, Trump visited a gun store and he said he would buy one. And everyone at home was like, really? Which one? Yep. Instant sell.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
The burnt bronze with President 45 on the side of the slide. Should have been a 45, but it was a 9mm. But anyway.
Oh, my God. It's just they're the best gun salesmen and they don't even get it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we try to tell them, Tim. We try to tell them.
Well, yeah.
We do. But let's dive into this, Tim, because, you know, the reason that the people of the Second Legacy have shown up is to watch a sheriff from Fresno County completely tear asunder Gavin Newsom's new gun control laws. I mean, we covered this on my channel last night, but the cool part about Second Legacy is I can actually bring in all the rest of the clips that I couldn't fit in because we've got it all and we're going to break it down right now. So, Tim, if you are ready, you want to start this train? You ready to rock?
Yeah, let's do it, Mr. Producer.
Well, Mr. Producer.
SB2 is a bill that will restrict the number of places and how good law-abiding residents are able to carry their guns with a valid CCW. This law is aimed at reducing violence in the state of California. Unfortunately, as we all know, our CCW holders are responsible to little, if any, violence when it comes to firearms. They are individuals who have gone through a background check. They are well trained and they are responsible. That is why they are granted a CCW.
I hate that word granted so bad.
Yes.
I hate that.
Here, peasant, you may have your rights today. The king has agreed.
Today.
Yes.
The sheriff has sent you through all of your hours of training. You have your background checks. You have your interpersonal interviews. You have your character references. You may be having your rights that are already guaranteed for you.
Yes.
It's just insane. First of all, that bothered me. But, you know, granted. Now, beautiful people of the Second Legacy, if you're not familiar that what Gavin Newsom did, here's it in a high nutshell. He basically said you can't carry guns in all these sensitive places, which is what this sheriff is talking about. And they also increased some taxes. That's extremely high level. You can go back to our video yesterday where we hit it. But the big thing right here is he's going down the road that, Tim, I would have expected some of these things to come out of your mouth.
Yeah, right. You know, he's saying what we already know to be true, right? And it's really interesting to see an elected official in California speak the truth for once, because what he's saying is the absolute truth. No lying with statistics in this speech. None of that. Basically, he just says the truth, which is our gun owners are law abiding. They're not the problem. The problem is the criminal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the law abiding. So why are you passing these restrictions on the law abiding? They're the only ones that are going to abide by the law because they're law abiding. By their very nature, criminals are criminals, which means they break laws. So you're not making anybody any safer. If anything, you're just emboldening the criminal. And so this is something that we've said many, many times. And this is just a simple fact of life. It's not, you can't even dispute this. And he just, he said it out loud. And I commend him for, taking that position.
For this part.
It gets better.
As we continue going, or worse, depending on your viewpoint, as is a tendency of people, the more you let them talk, the more of an opportunity there is to kind of step in it. Like I kind of, spoiler alert a little bit, he does fold like a cheap suit towards the end. So make sure you watch all these clips. But he's going down the right road initially. Like initially, we're really happy. In fact, Mr. Producer, throw number 2 up so he can build on that greatness.
CCW. As I said, this bill infringes upon the rights of those individuals to carry CCWs in certain locations, which in a way makes it difficult to store your gun, because where are you going to keep it? You're going to keep it in your vehicle, or are you just going to leave it at home because of the new restrictions? These restrictions impact the safety of our good law-abiding residents and how they protect themselves, their families, and their friends. The current holders, it's going to restrict where they can carry their guns with a CCW. So there are going to be times when they are going to have to leave their gun locked and secured in their vehicle, which in and of itself is a problem because we know vehicles get stolen and cars get broken into. Or some of them will leave their guns at home because it's too much of a burden. It's too much of an issue to be, well, I'm going here, I'm going to 4 locations. 2 of them I can't have my gun at, 2 of them I can. So I'm just going to leave it at home.
And he just hit on the entire point of these laws.
Yep. No, go. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's what these laws are intended to do. They're intended to intimidate the law-abiding into not exercising their rights so that they'll go out and become a statistic, a victim. And that's the whole point of this. They're trying to dissuade you from using your rights. It has nothing to do with stopping crime. If they wanted to focus on stopping crime, they would focus on the criminal, not the law-abiding. And so they constantly focus on the law-abiding because they want you to stop buying, carrying, using, enjoying firearms and exercising your rights. So they're going to do it through this incrementalism and through these just absolutely BS laws that literally what he's talking about are these sensitive places nonsense. And this is what I call imaginary line laws, right? You have these imaginary lines throughout a county. So let's take a look at Fresno. You have these imaginary lines now. They've been drawn all over the place. So on this side of the line, you're blessed. The state has said, you may have your rights. You're trustworthy. You can be here with a firearm. Not a problem. Oh, but wait. Walk across the street. There's no line painted on the ground, but if you walk across the street, well, now you're too close to building X, and now you're no longer trusted. But if the people in building X come out to meet you on the other side of the line, no problem. But if you go on their side of the line to meet with them, oh, we got a big problem here. Now you're facing a felony charge. This is the nonsensical stuff that they're doing in California and elsewhere in the nation to simply try to keep you from doing what is your constitutionally protected right to do.
That's exactly nailed it, Tim. Yes, I knew you were wise today. Legit,
got the glasses,
bro.
on.
Like this, it's the glasses. That's exactly right. So this is something. Let's just look at this from a different lens. And one of the things that we try to do on Second Legacy is bring the gun rights fight and put it in other places as well of our society and our rights. Because if you draw direct lines to any other right that we have, this would not be acceptable. This would be completely unacceptable. Now, this is called a chilling effect. That's actually what courts rule on these things. This is a chilling effect on voting participation. This is gerrymandering. All of these pieces. In fact, if you look at exactly what this is in voting, the Democrats, the leftists, the gun controllers, the exact same people who do this chilling effect on your gun rights are the ones that sue anyone and everyone because if you don't have an ID, that's a chilling effect. That's too burdensome to vote. Like, understand that this is the exact same approach of which they sue the right for. But when it comes to gun rights, it makes common sense and it's the most obvious thing in the world. Meanwhile, they're both rights.
Yeah. And guess
what?
That
is incredibly important.
And guess what this law is going to do with regards to having an effect on crime? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just like the most greatest gun control passed in 30 years by Joe Biden. Oh my gosh, this is the most comprehensive gun control we've ever seen in our lives. And it's done nothing. So we need to pass more.
Until we want more.
Yeah.
Until we want more. And then in case it's a meager step.
Yeah.
Like on Tuesday, it's the most comprehensive leadership example on the planet. And by Friday, it's like, well, we could have done more. We probably should. What the?
I know. You can't make this type of clownery up. It just
no, you can't.
But then you still have a segment of the population going, "Yeah, go Joe." You know, it's like, where did you come from? I mean,
like, right? I have no idea why people are down with this, but it's absolutely a chilling effect, without question. I'm glad you brought that up. To be quite honest, you're so astute. But Mr. Producer, let's go to number 3 because it gets better.
Criminals will carry their guns wherever. We arrest people on a daily basis who are convicted felons, who are gang members, who are people who are restrained persons in protective orders, who aren't supposed to carry guns, but they have them. Good people, good law-abiding, and I call them residents because you do not actually have to be a citizen to get a CCW. If you are a legal resident of California and the United States and you live in Fresno County, you can qualify for a CCW. An example of that is back on the 20th of September, we have our daily activity log, and I found 3 cases of individuals that were arrested for illegally being in possession of firearms. We had one who was a felon, convicted felon, and a gang member who had multiple weapons, including a rifle with a suppressor. We had another individual who was a convicted felon who was also in possession of a handgun, methamphetamine, and ammunition. And thirdly, these are from all over Fresno County. Thirdly, an individual up in the Auberry area who was a restrained person in a protective order who had 2 handguns or 2 firearms in his possession with ammunition. These are not CCW holders in Fresno County. These are criminals. These are the individuals that need to be targeted by gun laws and by more restrictive laws and stronger sentencing guidelines. Not CCW holders.
All right. So you saw that, like he's coming with hard facts, but now we're starting to get a little wobbly, right? With the language and the rhetoric, just a little bit. And he's starting to flirt with that line. Like he's walking across a line over a bridge and he's like,
you can see the politician coming out.
Yeah. Hold on. Wait a second.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear what this guy's doing. He's trying to walk a political line, right? Yes. First of all, he's elected and he's in California and he's pro-gun. So the guy has several strikes going against him, and he probably wants to keep his job. So it looks to me like, as you pointed out, he's starting to waffle a little bit. In the beginning, he takes a hard line. This is a dumb law. It does nothing. And then the more he talks, he gets into, well, I got to talk to this side, and 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 he becomes the politician.
Yep,
right down the middle.
That is exactly right. Yep. But to his credit, it's like now he's starting to get into that leftward lurch, but he did bring in some really incredible facts because he didn't say of 2022. He said September 20th. So that's like last week. So you've got a felon, a gang member who has a rifle, according to California law, and a suppressor, illegal to federal law and California law. I mean, like, he's bringing out all the facts. I mean, he is literally stating, here's real world examples. You've got people who are underneath GVROs or gun violence restraining orders. They got guns. You got people who are felons who have methamphetamines, drugs, and guns. He's literally proving the point. But again, we're getting that waffle. And it's just an interesting thing to see a California sheriff versus like a Florida sheriff or something else. I mean, it's a fascinating.
Yeah. And we won't even get into the whole aspect of this discussion that we've covered many, many times before about where we stand on these particular laws, like restraining orders and things like that. So we're just strictly talking about this sheriff and his political positions and the waffling that he's doing. We're not commenting on what we believe these laws to be, which is mostly bunk. So anyway.
Did you just, we're not saying anything, and we're particularly not saying it's crap. That was great. Yeah. That was great.
See, I'm being a politician.
Awesome. See, look at that.
Getting ready to
now
run
you're
for
waffling.
office. Yes.
God almighty. Well, I'll tell you what. Well, luckily for you, Tim, we're only halfway through of the sheriff clips because he's that on fire here. So I think we're going in a good direction with a little bit of waffling. Get the syrup ready because it's coming. So, Mr. Producer, could you hit number 4 for us?
I'm frustrated because you're going after individuals that are law-abiding, good people that are trying to do the right thing. And you're not focusing on the problem. This is not a problem. This is what my message to the governor is. This is not a problem. Criminals, felons, gang members, prohibited people, those in possession of ghost guns, those committing all these different felonies, those are the problem. We need to focus on the problem. And how we issue CCWs here, I've been part of that process for 10 years. One thing is, if the governor has any questions about a CCW process, I invite Governor Newsom to come here to Fresno County, and I will walk him through from start to finish how we issue CCW permits. He can watch how we conduct our approvals, how we do our appeals, and how we deny permits for individuals here in Fresno County, if that would give him a better understanding and a better peace of mind about how CCWs are issued here, at least in Fresno County, within the state of California. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And then
See? The waffle's coming out even more right now, right? So he's going down the road of granted earlier on, and then really strong on constitutional issues. But then he starts kind of flirting with the idea of certain laws and prohibited persons and GVROs and red flags. And then we can deny permits. I mean,
come on down. We'll show you how we deny those permits. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm like, wow, whatever happened to shall issue? That's interesting.
See, that's
anyway.
That's where these laws get even more asinine. So you have to remember, folks, California is not what the rest of America looks like in terms of laws and how they handle firearms and things like that. They're extremely restrictive, and they're proud of it. And it would appear to me that even the sheriff is in full support of many of these laws. What he's speaking out against here is further harassing permit holders, which by his own admission are people that he puts through some stringent process before they grant them the right to exercise their rights. And so that's where he's coming at this from. But yeah, I mean, good grief. California is just a mess. And so they're splitting hairs. And Gavin Newsom and the anti-gunners, they don't care about what the facts are. They don't care about what people get guns. They just don't want anybody to have them. So he's kind of like peeing in the wind here because Newsom doesn't care. He doesn't care about the facts. He doesn't care about how the permitting process works. All he knows is he wants to make people stop carrying and buying guns. And he's going to do that through sin taxes and further restrictions. You can't cross this imaginary line. And if you do, we're going to put you in prison and take away your right to own a gun forever. And that's the whole point of this exercise.
No, absolutely. So now, again, the waffling has started, Tim, but now we're going to get into something that I think you're going to find very fascinating. Because this next clip with this sheriff, he starts to go down some very interesting lines. You were talking about California and the way that the outlook is with, I don't want to give it away. You know what? I don't want to steal the thunder. Mr. Producer, play number 5. I think you're going to find this interesting.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. And in this case, I believe there are some small improvements that we could make across the board in the state of California to how CCWs are issued. None of us are perfect. We could always improve things. But there's not an issue. There's not a problem. Let's focus on the problems. Let's focus on people in our communities that commit acts of violence. It's not our CCW holders. I tell you that from all the information that I have, from looking at our records, and from being involved in this process since 2012. That's almost 11 going on 12 years. CCW holders are a very small, minor fraction. They're not the problem. It's these other groups that I've talked about that are the problem.
It's the other groups that we've talked about that are the problem. And he keeps on going down this road of it's not the existing system. And in this whole interview, he does something, Tim, that I think is so interesting. He goes down the road of democracy. And he says, well, what we have here is people aren't voting on the laws that are being passed. Like the people, the individual people, the actual people every day aren't voting. He's referring to a direct democracy. We don't have a direct democracy. We have a representative democracy. And technically, it's a republic that's the formation, but it's voted on through democratic means. But we don't have a direct democracy.
Yeah, but the states can operate in different ways, right? So at the federal level, it's definitely a representative republic. We don't have referendums put on ballots that we all get to vote on. But in California, this is common practice, right? So in their
propositions.
Yeah, they put forth these, like you said, propositions that the entire population votes on. This is a normal thing for them. I think this is how they legalized marijuana and things like that in the state. So this is not uncommon for them to say or do. It's just they do things differently than we do at the federal level. And each state has its own way of doing things like this. So that part I don't.
But it's so.
But the one thing I thought it was interesting. Hit me. He said acts of violence. There's other things we can do to prevent acts of violence. What he did not say is there's other things we can do to stop gun violence or IOVs, inanimate object violence, right? So he actually said something right there. So you know his mind is in the right place, even though he still lives in California and probably has things bouncing around in there that we vehemently oppose. I'm sure that's the case based upon some of the things he's already said. But you can tell he's thinking right. Again, the right way to think of this and look at this it's not a gun problem. There's no such thing as gun violence. We have a criminal problem, and we have criminals that commit acts of violence. And as long as we keep assigning guilt to inanimate objects, we're never going to address the problem. Because you can take away guns, they're going to use knives. You can take away knives, they're going to use pointed sticks. Or they're just going to make a new knife. Or they're just going to make a gun, because neither of them are hard to make. I mean, these things wind up in prison, some of the most secure places on the U.S. soil, and they still find them in prisons. And so it's like banning inanimate objects is not a solution to solving crime. It never has been and never will be. I mean, why don't we just ban people? Well, if nobody's around, if we just get rid of everybody, nobody can hurt anybody. Hey, problem solved. I mean, this is the leftist line of thinking, right?
It is. So now I'm curious, Tim. We've been through 5 clips now. What would you give this sheriff's rating on how he's approaching this press conference on a school scale, A, B, C, D, E, F? How would you do it?
I think so. I mean, only because I disagree with so much of what they've done in California. If you just take a look at everything, I'd say a C. But if you just take a look at this particular speech, maybe a little bit better, C+ or something like that. Again, because he gets off into the weeds of things that we oppose, but he's somewhat on course, right? He's saying the things that we often repeat here on this channel, but then he goes off into the weeds and gets into areas that we don't agree with. So
until this next clip.
Down the middle. Then this next clip, things change.
Yep. So that's why I wanted the rating now. He's got a C+ according to Tim. So now, Mr. Producer, let's play the last one and see if that C+ holds.
Are you saying that despite kind of you being against this new Senate bill, that it will be enforced in the county?
Well, you have to look at, here we are in the state of California. The legislature is passing a law, sending it to the governor's desk for signature. But is this what the people really want? Again, we're passing laws that are not going out to a vote of the people. And that's key. Yes, I will enforce the law. That's my job. I have to enforce the law. But when you have individuals out there, 18,000 individuals that carry CCWs throughout our county, I don't have the resources to go out and do CCW checks per se. So if we come across someone, yes, we will enforce the law. But in essence, that's something that for us is going to be a very low priority because, as I said earlier, these individuals are not the problem. They're not the ones out there committing these violent crimes. They commit very few, if any, crimes related to guns and gun violence.
Oh, and he used the word. So again, all right, the politician comes out full force right at the very end.
Yep, very, very much so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so are you going to enforce this? I mean, yeah.
It's my job. Well, no, sir. It's your job
not.
to respect people's rights. There are sheriffs all over this country, Colorado, Illinois, everywhere they've passed these ridiculous laws that infringe on people's rights. Sheriffs have come out and said, hey, we're not enforcing this. And they can do that. They're an elected official too. They are the ultimate law enforcement authority in their counties. And so they can say, yeah, we're not going to enforce this law. It happens all the time. So Mr. Sheriff, you're wrong. Your job is not to enforce the law. Your job is to protect my rights and my safety.
Yes, that's exactly right. So it happened in New Mexico, happened in Illinois with the assault weapons ban, happened in Florida with Jacksonville tragedy. I mean, all these
Colorado
places,
with the magazine ban. You can buy 30-round magazine in Colorado. Nobody enforces it.
Correct. The sheriffs are coming out. Oregon was another example. The sheriffs are coming out. They can easily say, we're not doing that.
Yep.
Like legitimately, it happens all the time. Now, this is where I think it's interesting because this guy, the way that I got the vibe of this is your early read was right on. He was obviously pro 2A. Obviously, this irritated him because it didn't make sense on a lot of levels, but it also infringed upon the rights of his county. but he also had to be political because he'll get recalled or he'll get voted, or he had to do the California line and placate a little bit to the left and say, well, of course I'm going to enforce it. It's the law after all. The legislature passed it and the governor signed it, and therefore I have to. No, you don't, boo.
Yeah.
You don't at all. That's one. The second thing is, it's something that you've said a lot. It's a tack-on charge now.
Mm-hmm.
So you caught somebody walking around without the proper concealed carry permit. So now they're pinched because they crossed the line that you mentioned, and you're going to enforce it, but it's not going to be a high priority. But if you happen to catch somebody, it's a tack-on charge.
Right.
Great.
They're out drunk driving and they're in possession of a firearm that under state law is illegal, and then now they're going to enforce that.
Right.
So,
or you're walking in intoxicated in public or whatever.
Yeah, that's it, like you said. Yeah, tack-on charge. Well, he did go into the gun violence thing there towards the end. I get the sense from this guy, and it's just my gut feelings. I do think he's somewhat pro 2A, but I also think he has a bit of a California mindset about him. And so I think,
I agree.
But the way he was talking about, our CCW carriers or holders are not the problem. These other people are the problem. And then he goes into a whole group of people that we don't really agree are necessarily a problem. And so, especially when you get into the area of, restraining people's rights to own firearms based on star chamber decisions, and your neighbor going to say, this person's dangerous. I don't like them. They have guns. Please take them away. Those are things that we disagree upon. So he definitely has a California mindset to him, but I also think that he believes the citizen should have a right to be armed. He's just one of those California 2A types,
No, that's exactly right. That's the best way. I can't even add to that. That's exactly my read as well.
Yeah.
So now that you've seen all these clips in summation, you had a C+. What's the rating now?
No, he gets an F for that one, because I completely disagree with the premise that his job is to enforce the law. That's only part of his job. His actual job is to protect his citizens. And that includes protect his citizens from overreaching government authorities, like the governor passing anti-2A laws. So that sheriff has the discretionary capability to say, hey, you know what? I truly believe that violates my citizens' rights. Therefore, I'm not enforcing that law. See you in court. That's the proper response, right? And he's kind of going down that path, but he just blew it in that last segment. He really blew it, and I think it's totally attributable to him trying to play politics, and he just kind of stepped on his own junk.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, trash. He's a messy person.
Yeah, of course. Whatever. Stuff that he had littered, not anything else.
No pickle jokes today.
Legacy.
No pickle jokes
for you. Well, Tim, this is the point when the YouTube alarm starts going off in my brain. So let's wrap this.
Yeah, we probably should kind of check out now. So anyway, folks, we look forward to your comments down below. What do you think about this sheriff? What would you give him on A, B, C, D, E, F, G scale? Let us know in the comments. All right, folks, thanks for watching Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.